listening to Cosmic Goblins, a fiction podcast exploring tales of cosmic horror, dark fantasy, weird fiction, sword and sorcery, sci-fi, and more. I'm Alex Wolfgang. In this episode, we're going to close out an unintentional trilogy that began 2 episodes ago. First was giant bugs, then spiders, and today, another familiar frightening critter. Once again, though, this week's story couldn't be more different than the last 2. Camden Rose brings us the tale of a toxic relationship between a mother and her daughter, one with some biting social commentary that will leave you with a hollow pit of dread as it slithers into your mind. It was first published in Cosmic Horror Monthly's August 2025 issue. Stick around until after the story is done, because we'll also have a short interview with Camden Rose. Today's story also has a very special guest narrator, the wonderfully talented Jennifer Witcher. Enjoy!
Cosmic Goblins presents Just Visiting by Camden Rose. I knew that Isabella wouldn't like me appearing on her doorstep unannounced, but she'd never turn me down. She couldn't. She had the decency to not turn me, her own mother, away. I'd at least taught her that basic courtesy. I ball my fist and tap, tap, tap on her beautiful wooden door that she's ruined with a fake skeleton. It hangs from where a wreath should hang. It's not even Halloween. Behind me, I hear a slither. I knock again to block out the sound. "It's open!" I hear from inside and sigh to myself. She knows she's supposed to answer the door instead of yelling at the person to enter. Yelling will just let the person, thief, murderer, etc., know she's alone with the door unlocked. I decide to wait. The birds outside chirp a lovely melody. They sit on the tree nearby, rustling their feathers on a branch. The mama bird nudges the baby bird to the end of the branch, then gently shoves until the baby flaps its wings and flies. I'll do the same thing for my daughter. Save her and help her fly in this harsh world, just like my mom did for me and her mom did for her. It's the only way to survive. Isabella opens the door quickly. Her hair sits on her head in the messiest of buns, and she wears leggings under her short shorts, as though it'll make the look less scandalous. Her face falls when she notices it's me, but it's quickly replaced by a smile. I try not to notice. "Oh, hi, Mom," she says, still blocking the doorway with her small frame. "Well, aren't you going to let me in?" I say, holding my purse to my stomach. Isabella seems to debate for a moment, but then she steps to the side to reveal the monstrosity that is her townhouse. I try not to gasp as I work my way through the disorganized living room that has nothing but a couch and a TV. Not even with a TV stand. There's no decor, no woman's touch, nothing that makes the place feel like home. Unless, of course, you count the hundreds of books piled next to the couch so tall that they become a table in themselves. "You could have called or texted," she says. "Where do your friends sit when they come over?" I ask, nodding toward the couch that looks too small for more than 2 people. How can they bear to have a conversation facing the same direction instead of toward each other? My daughter points to the pillows. "We put them on the floor." I gasp that time. Isabella sighs. She turns toward me. "Mom, please, this is my space, not yours," she says, but I'm no longer listening. Instead, I'm ascending the stairs cluttered on both sides, trying to find the guest room. Surely, even with the design flaws my daughter has, she must have a guest room. I'm proven wrong when the only things upstairs are her room, which has the bright colors of a teenager, and a bathroom littered with beauty products all over the counter. Ones I never thought she would have used until I saw them, given how splotchy her face looks. Isabella is waiting downstairs for me, sitting on her couch. It seems to collapse under her weight. The whole contraption must be 10 years old at least. "Where's your—" I start. "Guest room? I don't have one. You can sleep in my bed." I clutch my purse to my chest as though that'll help me. Have I done something wrong? How did she end up like this? How did she survive up to this point, thinking that she could offer her mother a bed that she'd slept in herself? I would never, I respond. I'll take the couch. It's the least I can do to be a hospitable guest. Plus, I'm not sure I want to lay wherever my daughter has. Who knows what kind of riffraff she's gotten into beneath those sheets? Who knows how often she washes it? If you want to, she shrugs. A white cat appears from the kitchen and jumps up on the couch. Isabella starts petting him. Hey, Floofy, she says. Since when do you have a cat? I got him about 2 years ago. Must have been right after I visited last. Right before James served me divorce papers. Right before I started menopause. I decide to sit down. After all, I've been up longer than normal, and the aches are starting to return. My back curves with the weight of the couch. I'm not sure I can get up. Oh, I say in surprise. Floofy meanders over to me, and my daughter gets up. The animal seems cleaner than anything in the house. I pet him carefully. You look uncomfortable, Mom. Take to bed, Isabella says. And as much as I want to argue that you don't give your guests your bed, you give them a guest room. I don't think I can. Anything is better than this monstrosity. Even sitting on it makes my back scream in anger. Isabella orders us takeout that we eat on paper plates. During dinner, she asks questions about Dad. She's always cared more about him than me. And I try to act like it's not paining me that I don't have a table to eat at. Proper women should have tables. When we get ready for bed, Isabella sweeps all her products from the sink to a bin. She considers it clean enough after that, but when she's back downstairs on the couch, I give it a once-over with a paper towel. It's good I came now. I can stop her before it's too late. I spend the first half of the night taking all the products in her bathroom and organizing them, putting her tampons in a hidden corner so guests won't see them, and taking her hairspray and gel and whatever else and putting it under the sink. I try not to throw anything away, but it's hard not to when half of the things on her counter are broken, expired, or pointless. I tell myself she'll appreciate it. Then she'll be more willing to receive my help. When I collapse into the bed, my body creaks like a house in the wind. Heat flashes through my bones, and I try to ignore it. I can't be getting this old. Not already. Not when I've barely started my life. I try to ignore it at first, shift to the side, take off the horrid neon comforter. But the heat. Then, under the steady throb of my heart trying to fall asleep, I hear a slither. It's long and soft, like the hum of a vent, but I pull my feet as close to my chest as I can. Dealing with my daughter is one thing, but snakes? I really don't like snakes. Thankfully, I fall asleep from exhaustion before my brain can start imagining things. The next morning, Isabella volunteers to make us pancakes. I decide to let her, so that I can see how she might cook for a future husband, though I hold back my thoughts that pancakes are the least womanly thing to make. Small steps. Small steps. As I'm standing, hovering by the crumble-riddled stove, there are no chairs other than the couch downstairs, and Isabella stirs the batter, I find my eyes casually moving around the room, searching for snake holes. When I was newly married, we had a snake problem, and they seemed to consume my dreams. It wasn't until my husband courageously went under the house and stabbed them with a hoe that I was able to sleep right again. For months after, though, I felt them in my stomach, slithering inside as though they were building a nest in my uterus. When I became pregnant with Isabella, the sinking slither disappeared. My stomach bulged, and everything I cared about shifted to her, to making her the best woman she could be. I was no longer just myself. I was hers. And I needed her to understand that sometimes, as a woman, we have to mold ourselves to what the world wants. I wish I could make her understand, help her know that I'm trying my best. My acts of love are to her benefit. "Sleep well?" Isabella says. Flour flies from her bowl and I watch it cover the floor. Floofy rolls around in it. "Yes," I lie. "Do you have snakes?" "Snakes," she laughs. "No, and if we did, I'm sure Floofy would be after them in a heartbeat." She nods over at the cat, who is half flour at this point. I seriously doubt his hunting skills. I nod, but Isabella frowns at me. "Why are you here, Mom? You've never visited before," she says. I straighten my posture, but keep leaning on the counter for support. "Nothing. Just want to see that you're all right. You need a dining room table." Isabella sighs, in a way that makes a small part of my heart break. It's as though she was just waiting for me to say something wrong. And now that I have, whatever it is, she's decided to write me off. It's as though she was me 20 years ago when I told my mom I didn't need her help. But that was before I realized that she was just trying to show me the truth. Snakes leave their children once they hatch, but my mom wanted to keep training me until I couldn't handle it anymore. "I'll only be here a few days," I add, hoping that it'll help. I do really care about her, and part of me understands the feelings she's having. Isabella nods. She starts pouring the batter on the pan one by one, and the pancakes bubble. "You should use a cup so that each pancake is the same." "What if I don't want my pancakes to be the same?" She arches her eyebrows at me, and I know that it'll be a fight, but I'm too tired to care. I want her to care. Want to be better. Want to work on being the perfect woman. I want her to find a husband and have a kid and get a guest room before I'm too old and tired to enjoy it. "Your future husband won't appreciate it," I add, trying to win her over to my side. She puts her bowl down and the batter drips over the sides onto the counter. I want to wipe it up, but I don't. It's her house, and I know she'll already be upset about the bathroom cleanup from last night. I have to pick my battles. Fuck my future husband. It's not womanly to curse. She sighs and rubs her hand down her face. I try to stand up straighter as cold rushes through me. Somehow the cold flashes are worse. "God, Mom, can we please not do this again?" "Do what?" I say with a slight tilt of my head, but I know exactly what she's talking about. She doesn't understand how unhappy and upset she'll be when she looks back in 20 years and finds out she never could settle down because she couldn't improve herself. She'll regret this, regret not taking care of her home, finding someone to build a family with. I know she will. Isabella sighs. She grabs a spatula and flips the pancakes. I watch them sizzle in silence, trying to stop myself from shivering. Isabella leaves for work after we've eaten. She claims she has to get there earlier than normal because someone called out, but I know the truth. She wants to get away from me. She'd rather serve tables for another hour and please customers she doesn't know than please her mom. I used to be as stubborn as her, and my mom taught me what I needed to live in this world as a woman. If I had listened sooner, everything would have been easier. Isabella needs to understand that. While I silently plan what I'm going to say when she comes home, I decide to do a deep clean of the bathroom. It's always a good place to start in my book. Something that everyone sees every day, and very easy to clean given how small the room is compared to other spaces. Maybe tomorrow I can tackle her bedroom. Look for signs of snakes. It wouldn't be the first time Isabella had lied to me. I grab supplies from downstairs and head up to the bathroom. Before I start cleaning it, I empty my bladder just to be safe. I find 3 small drops of blood on my underwear. While my periods are few and far between, they're not over yet, and every few months my body likes to remind me. I take a tampon from the place I hid them yesterday and slip it up my vagina. It's sticky and gross and way too dry for comfort. Almost like rubbing dry skin against a balloon. But Isabella doesn't have any pads, and I'm not about to be so barbaric as to wrap toilet paper around my underwear. I'm better than that. As I clean the toilet and shower and sink and floor, I feel the tampon shifting around inside me, as much as I try to ignore it. I don't like anything being up there, waiting like an animal about to pounce. At least, according to the doctors, I'll be finished with my period within 1 to 2 years. Then I'll never have to steal one of my daughter's tampons again. Isabella comes home a few hours after I've finished the bathroom. I've started cleaning up the kitchen, rearranging everything in places that make actual sense. Who keeps their silverware in the furthest drawer from the sink? She puts down her work bag and collapses on the couch. I glance over at her, at the way she has her eyes closed and her stomach moves up and down with each breath. When I was younger, in college, I used to sit like that, not caring about who saw my stomach or my bad posture. She is my daughter, after all. "Good day at work?" I say from the kitchen. I'm preparing one of her favorite dishes for dinner, a way to show gratitude for letting me stay. I hope that it'll mend any issues between us and make her more open to talking about her life. She might even be open to suggestions. Tiring. She leans forward and takes off her shoes, right there in the living room. Then, to my horror, she takes off her socks as well. She flexes her unpainted toes and rotates to put them on the couch. I hold my breath. "I can feel you judging," she mumbles and puts her feet back on the floor. "I'm not judging." I swallow. "It's just that you'll ruin your furniture like that. It's harder to wash the couch than your feet." I scrunch my face. "It'll smell." Isabella stares at me for a moment in utter disbelief. Then she sighs and gets up. "I'm going to get ready for bed. Don't wait to eat." I want to call after her. I know I should. But instead, I watch her ascend the stairs into the darkness. After a moment of hesitation, I sit down on the couch, on the part her feet didn't touch, and put my head in my hands. Our relationship has never been the best, but I always hoped it would get better with age. I've seen my friends and their daughters become best friends, even if they fought when they were younger. But somehow I keep messing it up. Isabella turns the shower on upstairs, and I debate what I can do to make her know that I care, that I'm trying my best. And in that debating, I hear a steady slither under the sound of the shower. I jerk my head up, trying to see where the snake is, but there's nothing. For a moment, it sounds like it's coming from under the couch. But when I put my feet up and look under, there's nothing there but dirt and dust. The slither starts again, this time above. I look around the entirety of the couch before realizing that the sound isn't under anything, but within something. Within me. I put my hand to my stomach and feel a slight movement within it, trying to come through, almost like a baby kicking, but slower and slipperier. The snakes are back, and this time I don't have a baby to get rid of them. I scream. The water upstairs turns off, and Isabella comes rushing downstairs, a towel haphazardly thrown around her body, shampoo on half her head. She makes water shadows on the hardwood as she runs to me. "Mom, what's going on?" she says. "Is something wrong? Are you okay?" I take a deep breath and calm myself so that I don't worry her. I'm not supposed to worry her. She's my daughter. She's supposed to worry me, not the other way around. If I'm honest, she'll hate me. Or worse, she'll mother me instead of the other way around. I'm fine, I say, smoothing my pant legs to hide the wrinkles. The slithering stopped when she came downstairs, almost as if it didn't want to be discovered. Isabella doesn't seem to believe me. You should get the shampoo out of your hair, I say, pointing to the bubbles dripping onto the floor, before you make a bigger mess. Just like that, her concern wipes from her face and she rolls her eyes. She goes back upstairs and I wait until I hear the water turn back on before I act fully relax. What's wrong with me? That night, I go to pull the tampon out, but nothing is there. I know I put it in. I think I put it in. But no matter how hard I search, nothing comes out. I can't even find the string. I didn't think I was losing my memory, but memory loss is a sign of menopause and all the symptoms line up. But, just to be sure, to appease the teenager in me that once got a tampon stuck up there and had to go to the gyno, much to the embarrassment of my mom, I pull apart my lips with my right hand and reach in with my left fingers. Something bites me. I take my hand out. It's bleeding. Maybe I'm going crazy. I go to bed, trying to ignore the slither. That morning, the bite is nothing more than a prick. I take a shower to try to rid myself of my improper thoughts. Downstairs, Isabella sleeps. Sometimes I wish I could talk to her like a normal human, like I hadn't birthed her. Sometimes I wish I could talk to anyone about how I feel, instead of having to bury it inside because I was worried about being too emotional. Women aren't emotional. They are proper and on top of everything. Especially moms. I shave my legs for the first time since I've arrived. I wasn't expecting to stay this long, and normally I wouldn't put off shaving for so many days. But there's nothing there. Not even the little growths of hair trying to pick through. In fact, when I rub my hand against my legs, it feels dry. We continue like this for a week. I ignore the slither with cleaning, and Isabella ignores my cleaning by being out of the house as much as possible. Eventually, the whole place is spotless, though I keep getting rushes of heat and cold as though my blood is trying to push something out. Once I can no longer ignore the strangeness in my body and the looks of my daughter, I decide that Isabella needs more furniture and we need to talk. I convince her to go shopping. Not for anything crazy, just a table, maybe even an ottoman. Something to make her room feel a little more put together and less like a college student's. She graduated 7 years ago. It's time her style shifts with her. How about this? I offer. I know the only reason she agreed is because I said I'd pay, but I want her to at least look interested in all the fancy furniture. I run my fingers along the sofa with the chaise, the beautiful tufted back and rounded arms. My stomach hurts, throbs even. I already have a couch I sagged into so much that I can't tell if I'm sitting on the floor or not. Mom, my couch is fine. I want to stop. I really do. But instead, I feel the slithers inside me begging me to tell her how I feel. I step forward. Your couch is as old as me, Isabella, and I'm not getting any younger. It's bad for your back. It's bad for the room. And most of all, it makes you look like a single woman who never wants to marry. Normally, she would run away, and I almost want her to, even though making a scene in a public space is not like me. But she holds her ground this time. Whoever I want to marry won't care about that stuff. What if they do? Then I won't marry them. I won't marry anyone at all. She crosses her arms like a little kid. and I feel the snakes inside me pushing against my ribs, telling me to not let her get away with it, telling me to give her a piece of my mind, tell the truth at all costs. But then I see all the looks from customers around us and swallow it down. I'm sorry, I gasp. I don't know what came over me. My stomach feels like it's going to turn inside out. I glance around quickly, then run outside for some fresh air. Isabella hesitates but follows close behind. Mom, But I don't hear the rest because I'm bleeding. Just a bit at first, but then down my pantyhose, dripping onto the pristine sidewalk. Once white and polished and clear of leaves, but now attacked by my disgusting and dirty insides. I go to tell her to leave, but my mouth won't form the words. My tongue extends, getting narrower and wider. My body deflates. My arms retreat into my cashmere sweater, and my legs shrink until there's nothing left. I'm just a blob, a nub. And then, like everything in my life has been waiting for this moment, I stretch and stretch and stretch. As the sky reaches my side-slit eyes and I abandon the clothes that once fit my form, I find myself no longer caring about what people think. All I want to do is eat, feed, and give life to the snakes inside me. If I could laugh, I would. It's liberating, this feeling of freedom. I am just a snake. Nothing more, nothing less. I turn toward my daughter, to her look of pure horror. She's frozen, understandably. She just watched her mother turn into a pregnant snake. I slither toward her, feeling the heat of the sidewalk against my scales. With each serpentine movement, my life as a woman falls away. And with that come realizations. I was never going to be the perfect wife, mother, daughter, or woman. But forcing others to be perfect didn't fix me. I was trapping my daughter because I felt trapped myself. I was forcing her into boxes that weren't hers. I should have focused on our relationship. I shouldn't have lied to her and expected her to be truthful to me. I should have done what my mom never did. Stop being her mom and start being her friend. I want her to understand that I'm sorry, that I want her forgiveness. So I slither up to her leg, waist, torso, and wrap myself around her in a tight hug that tells her I'm sorry. I hope it isn't too late to be her friend. Camden Rose is a queer author who loves seeking out magic beneath the everyday world. Her works have appeared with Inner World and Heartline Spec. She lives in the Pacific Northwest with her spouse, black cats, and collection of books and board games. You can find her online at www.camdenscorner.com.
Hi, Camden. Welcome to Cosmic Goblins.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, yes. Just visiting was a real crowd favorite for the readers and the staff, so it was definitely one that we had to include on the podcast.
I'm glad. It's definitely an interesting story, so
Yeah,
I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, it feels like a very personal one. Can you tell me a little bit about like its origins, the genesis of it, what spark sort of led to its creation?
Yeah. So a lot of my stories sort of come from either a very strong visual or something that I personally am going through. Uh, the origin to this is not what you expect. I use a period cup, and one day I lost it, and so I had to go back to my tampons and it was really sad. And I was sort of freaked out because it felt scarier to put cotton in my body than it did to put plastic. I don't know. So to help combat this, I started reading the back of the period box, which is the worst thing to do. You never should read the back of anything when you're about to put it inside you. And so I was reading about the toxic shock syndrome, which sets in after 8 hours. It's terrifying,
That sounds
not very
terrifying.
likely, but terrifying.
Mhm.
And with the tampon sort of having like a snake-like string and my brain sort of freaking out, I immediately changed it to toxic snake syndrome. And then I was like, well, what if this was true? What if it did turn you into a toxic snake? And then that's sort of how the story got born.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's not what I expected. I was going to ask you about the significance or symbolisms of snakes. I'd imagine kind of like a folklore connection, but that's honestly way more interesting.
Yeah, I'm so visual with the way I think about my stories. I wish I was better at connecting it to folklore, but for this one specifically, it was solely because of a pun. That was the entire thought.
Love that. Love that. And it's such a like seemingly you wouldn't have expected something like that to lead to a story that has kind of a more serious subject content. So, oh yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about point of view because this story is it's very strict in its point of view to the mom's perspective, and we don't get a whole lot from the daughter. But at the same time,
hmm
it feels like you get a lot from the daughter because of the implications of what you're hearing from the mom. So can you tell me a little bit about your decision to make it from the mom's point of view and kind of keep the daughter sort of at an arm's length?
Yeah. So when I start a story, I always try to think about where is the arc? So who is changing in the story? I thought it was important that the mom is the one changing because she is the one that she's perceiving this strained relationship. Whereas if it was from the daughter's perspective, I feel like the ending would just be the daughter cuts her mom off, which is valid, but also not very interesting. And so I wanted to do something that was from the perspective of a character who maybe isn't as likable.
Sure.
If you read any of my other works, you notice that I do that a lot. It's sort of the way I try to figure out why people act the way they do. Um, and I think the mom is such an interesting manifestation of what women are told by society, this sort of idea that you should hide the gross parts of you. Um, I grew up in the South and I had a lot of grandparents that were very much like, you never talk about your period. You never even like talk about the fact that you poop. Like, just don't talk about these things. Women are perfect. And it provides so much trauma and a lot of generational trauma there. And so I thought it would be an interesting way to explore that because you have this like mom who really doesn't want to be seen as weak or dirty, and throughout the story she's taking this feeling that she feels about herself out on her daughter, and she's so ashamed of that, and she's really ashamed of the fact that her daughter was able to break the cycle she couldn't break. Like, I think there's a difference between knowing that you have something inherently wrong with you and then being able to change it. And so she knew that there was something like she was hiding these parts of herself and that she was still doing it, where she saw the daughter saw that she was told to hide these parts of herself and actively chose not to. And so I thought that was a really interesting like juxtaposition between the two, and for her using this entire story and the stake thing to try to move through that feeling and accept her daughter for who she is. And by then she's a literal snake, so there's that whole horror part to it.
Yeah, it's cool to have someone who's in the middle, who's kind of sees her daughter and it reveals things about herself that she, may not have otherwise seen. Yeah, I think it works really well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. At least I hope
Um,
it works well.
it worked very well for us for sure. Let's talk influences a little bit. Do you have any authors in particular whose style you were inspired by or whose content you were?
Yeah. So it's funny because when we were chatting earlier about the reasons that I write the way I do, Shirley Jackson is a big influence of mine. And I think you would guess that in
Yeah,
our
that
emails.
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I love her works. I love the way she navigates stories. The fact that they're both very inner, but also this sort of conversation with how society is at whatever time she's writing. I also really enjoy other feminist horror writers, like Carmen Maria Machado is one of my favorites. She's sort of in the literary spec fic space where you aren't really sure which category it falls into. But she loves to explore like why women function the way they do, with a horror take on it. So those my goal is to like explore society through this feminist lens, and through body horror because that's always such a fascinating thing to me. And I hope that I can emulate both the Carmaria Machado and the Shirley Jackson fans in my
Hmm.
life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think you also share that sort of aspect of there being the kind of surface story and then the real story that's sort of lurking below. I feel like from what I've read from Shirley Jackson and Machado,
Hmm.
I think that they have those tendencies as well. And
Yes,
yeah,
for sure.
it adds this I don't know, this element of dread that sort of you have these two things that are sort
Yeah.
of at odds, but not really. You know, they come together to form the story, but there's still like this weird sort of distance between them.
Yes. Yeah. I love stories that seem to be two different stories. And then when you actually start thinking about it, you're like, oh, no, these do connect. Like we have this daughter who's really struggling with something. I'm thinking about a Shirley Jackson story. And then there's these random woods that she goes to, and it doesn't seem to be connected. But then when you read the story back through, you're like, oh, this actually makes a lot of sense. And
Mhm.
you sort of realize the downfalls of the world through the stories. So
So, I want to know a little bit about you as a reader. Whenever you're approaching sort of a magazine or an anthology, some sort of collection of stories where some are going to stand out to you more than others, what jumps out to you in a story whenever you're reading something like Cosmic Horror Monthly? Is it maybe a strong voice, or the prose, or the plot?
yeah, there's a lot of interesting things I love about stories. I unfortunately am not slushing right now, or fortunately, it takes a lot of time, but it is a lot of fun to do. And the thing that always stood out for me was the weird, having something that's strange and a little off. I love a strong voice. I love voices that are different than what I normally read. And I am fascinated by interesting plots, but really it's the weird that makes me be like, okay, this story is different. Like taking two ideas and connecting them when they really don't feel like they should connect, or exploring something that maybe isn't explored typically in the fashion that you're exploring it. You'll notice that a lot of my pieces tend to either have a strange voice or have a strange format. And that's also what I like to read. So anything when I'm looking at a story, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting because it's a super cool format in a way that sort of makes you reevaluate the story when you read it back through again.
Gotcha. So you've been a slush reader before.
I have, yeah. It's been a while, but it was a lot of fun.
What did you slush for?
I think it was, oh goodness, there was a couple. I slushed for the Dread Machine, which unfortunately is no longer printing.
Oh
But they
yeah.
did horror magazine, super cool, sort of anarchist in nature. And then I think, and now, of course, every magazine I've ever slushed for is just falling out of my brain. Um, but oh, Shortwave. Shortwave Publishing was another one I did. They
Shortwave.
did an anthology call, for weird horror, and that was a lot of fun too. I got some really cool stories out of that. It's a great feeling too, because as a slush reader, you get to read just a wide plethora of stories, and then afterwards you get to say, "Oh, like I really like this one," and then you get to possibly watch it come to print. You're like, "I was the one that chose this." It's like I have picked this out of all the marbles in the jar, and this is the one that like has made it to the top marble, and it's really cool to see and watch, and just like a different part of the process.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting too to see stories that are in different levels of development because so many of us as readers only see the final products, the polished, the edited ones, the cream of the
Hmm.
crop. So I feel like maybe you get a better understanding of how writers operate whenever you get to slush. So
Oh, for sure, yeah. When I was first starting writing, that was something that was recommended, was becoming a slush reader, and I think it was the best thing I ever did for my career. Obviously, discipline and working on your craft and reading is all super important, but
mhm.
slush reading really gives you a good idea of the market and a good idea of what actually our editor's looking for, because the editor typically will be like, here's some example stories of what we're thinking,
Mhm.
or here's the kind of vibes we're wanting to explore. And then it feels less harsh when you get a rejection because you're like, oh, well, I know that they already had six mermaid stories and they don't want another one. Like,
Yeah, you've
so
been on the
it's
other side.
Yeah, you know how it feels.
Gotcha. So, how long have you been writing?
Um,
Or at
I feel
least,
like
I know
every
it's a tough
writer,
question,
yeah,
but like on a doing the sort of the project that you're doing now, as
yeah. Um, I mean, like most writers, I've been writing since I was a child, but seriously writing probably since 2020. The pandemic started a lot of it for me because I was stuck at home all the time. Um, but also just having time to do it. I'm very motivated by Excel spreadsheets. That's my two loves are cats and Excel,
nice.
and writing. But then so I would make these Excel spreadsheets that had these crazy goals, like I'm aiming for 100 submissions this year. And if I get 100 submissions, then we're going to go see a show downtown and it's going to be amazing. And so doing like 2020 was the first year I started doing the tracking of my submissions and tracking of the short stories and actually trying to build communities. And because everything was online, it was great because I could just join whatever community I wanted. I didn't have to actually live there. And so I joined a lot of groups that were all around the world. And I was like, I'm going to join Seattle, even though I don't live in Seattle, and we'll just see how it goes. And through that, I've made so many writing friends and been able to forge connections that have been great and amazing for just like beta readers and being able to talk about writing and have others around the world that are working on different kinds of things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of writers out there with a similar story, particularly in the horror space. I think that there was
Hmm.
a bunch of communities that just boomed. I remember I got in contact with Howl Society, which was a book club at the time, but then there was like a writers group that kind of evolved out of that. And 5 years later, I ended up running this podcast. So um, yeah, it's cool. It's weird how a giant global tragedy can sort of put the roots in for these actually really wholesome communities.
Yes, very much so. I think it's a great thing to see all these just different groups of people. Normally, I would do writing groups every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, and it would be fine, but that would sort of be it. And so having a group of people that I online was connected with was really nice. And being able to have my hands in different pots because sometimes I'm writing horror and it's very gruesome and intense, and I don't want to necessarily give it to like a sci-fi writer that's maybe not as up to that. And sometimes I'm wanting to explore sci-fi because it feels like a place I don't really know a lot about. And so
Hmm.
I want to have someone who really has a lot of context on how that genre works. And so it's really nice. Like there's so many writers in the world and all of them are doing great, amazing things. And it's really cool to see that community blossoming.
Definitely. And on that note, what are you working on right now? What have you been working on lately?
Yeah. So going back to my motivation of Excel spreadsheets, I am attempting to write two short stories a month is my goal,
Nice.
and do 460 submissions a year. So I am,
460, that's ambitious.
yes, yes. Well, I did 100 the first year. And then the next year I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do 100 again. I can meet that. But because I was very specific in my goal of like, if I get to 100, I get to see a show. If I get to another 100, I get to see a show. I really wanted to see four shows that year. And so I did 460 and I was like, maybe I'll get to see a fifth show. And so 460 is sort of my limit. So that's why I'm like my most. But on track for that, which is really nice. And then working on a middle grade novel, which is very out of my capacity, but it's fun and exciting and a little more chill. I feel like I have to make less statements about the world, or at
Sure.
least I make the statements in different ways. Um,
Is
and
that
then
within, is
my,
it, sorry,
mhm.
Is that within the horror genre, or are you doing something a little
No,
different with that? Is
it
it
is
just straight middle grade?
completely different. It's a light fantasy,
Okay.
very like girl power. I'm a teacher by day, and so
Nice.
it's important to me that I think kids get access to books that talk about topics they're actually talking about nowadays. And so it sort of started out of that, of having a couple of conversations with kids where they felt like, I wish we had more books that were about like us as people and not just like insert kid number five.
Hmm.
And so having this like, let's write more books about people from different backgrounds and different perspectives and different neurotypes and um, having that space was really what motivated me to do it and feeling like I wanted to write the book that I wish I had as a kid.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah.
And it's probably just a
There's
fun,
also,
like, a way to
mhm,
just flex some different muscles, because
yeah,
something like
and
this
it's,
story is totally not what a middle grade reader is going to be looking for.
I hope not. Yeah. You never know. But yeah, I do appreciate jumping between different kinds of projects. I think it's a lot of fun to be like, okay, well, today I'm ready to scare myself. And so I'm going to write something really terrifying. And today I really just want to take a break and write something that makes me happy and is an escapism. And so I'll work on that middle grade instead. And so having different kinds of things to bounce between at any given point has been really nice. Um, the other thing that I'm working on, going back to community, is that my friends and I have started a press as of like a month and a half ago. So it's very new.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
yeah, but it's called Lightforge City, and so I'm super excited about that and curious to see where it will go.
Is it Light Force or Light Forge?
Light Forge, like a forging iron, but you're
Awesome. Okay.
forging light.
And is this going to be sort of for you and your friends, like personal projects, or are you hoping to kind of expand like to other
Yeah,
writers as well?
sort of a bit of both. We're all new to doing press. I think we have a lot of experiences between the group of us, with me having a lot of slushing experience and editorial experience, and then some other friends being professional audiobook narrators or like having marketing as a job. And so we sort of have this nice niche of enough interest and passions and professional experience that we can mesh together. But we also don't want to screw over writers that we don't know. So we are going to do it just with our group first and just do our book with just our stories. And then after that, open up to submissions because we want to make maybe most of the mistakes we'll make, hopefully. Um,
Sure.
make some of the mistakes at least that would be like really big mistakes first so that we know how the process works before we decide to open up to like random people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if we have some readers who really connected with this story and they want to know where they should go next, what would you recommend as far as other stories you may have out or things that people could easily access to read from you?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories that I've written is called Becoming a Home. It's in the Other anthology through Bannister Press. It's about what would happen if women literally turned into houses. Very
Okay.
similar kind of idea of women turning into things. I don't know why this is a theme I'm exploring right now. Definitely not related to our social climate right now. But I really enjoy the way it sort of navigates the world. But if people are more interested in this story, the um, current story we're talking about, if they're more interested in that because of the voice, then Dead Quiet is a really interesting one. It's by Xanax Hamster through From Beyond Press. And it's about a woman who wants to kill her husband. Is basically all I can say without spoiling it. But
Okay.
it's a lot of fun and voicey and vibey. And if they like more horror, then Picking My Body, which is in the Meat for Meat issue, issue one, is about what would happen if you picked a hangnail until it wrapped around your whole body.
Oh, wow.
Um, so it
Gruesome.
definitely that was like probably the most horrific story I've written because it's very gore. But if that is what was appealing about this story, then that would be a good one. Um, I do have other author recommendations, if that's okay. Can I
Oh,
give
please
other
do.
authors too?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so Real Women Have Bodies by Carmen Maria Machado is a really fascinating and interesting feminist horror story about women in the wedding industry. Without spoiling too much, but it sort of like is about relationships with women and what happens when you're in this place where like the wedding industry is very like body focused. And so what happens when you feel not comfortable in your body? And it's really cool. I really love where it goes. And then The Head by Bora Chung, which is about a head that appears in your toilet And then it just sort of goes there. You're just going to the bathroom and suddenly there's a head there. Um, and Girl Boss in Wonderworld, USA by Vivian Chow is also a really great story as well. And Vivian, I think, was also published in a Cosmic Horror Monthly in the May issue.
Oh,
So
great.
she's a super cool author to check out too, and the same kind of body horror vibes.
Great. Those are
That's
some
my list. Yeah.
awesome. Those are all three. I mean, those are all three short stories, right?
I believe so. The Girl Boss Wonderworld is free. The Real Women Have Bodies. I'm honestly not sure. I read it when I was in college. My professor did the thing where you copy each page and then print it on PDF. So I'm not positive about that one, nor am I positive about the head. But all
Gotcha.
the ones that I recommended of mine, I believe, are free to read.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the recommendations.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for joining us on Cosmic Goblins for Episode 4. Tune back in 2 weeks for Episode 5, when we'll be digging into another story from Issue 0 of Goblins and Galaxies. See you then.